Chapter 1. Blood, Bullets, and a Sassy Doctor. The emergency room was a battlefield of noise alarms beeping, nurses shouting, the metallic scent of blood heavy in the air. Dr. Zayne Cross, alpha, trauma surgeon, and part-time savior of idiots who didn't value their lives, stormed in with his white coat flaring dramatically behind him. "Vitals," he barked, snapping gloves on. "BP 90/60ths, pulse unstable, multiple gunshot wounds, rib fractures," the nurse stammered, her eyes flicking nervously toward the bloodied man on the gurney. Zane's gaze followed hers and narrowed. The man lying there wasn't just another gang member. His aura, dark, cold, commanding, was suffocating. His eyes, even half-lidded, glinted with danger. Someone whispered from the corner, voice trembling. "It's him, Nikolai Volkov, the Enigma Mafia King." The air froze. One of the nurses dropped a tray. Zayne just sighed. "Oh, great! A celebrity with a death wish." The staff looked horrified, silently pleading for him to shut up. But Zayne, being Zayne, continued. "You people and your bullet holes. Do you think I'm running a repair shop here?" The Mafia King, bleeding out yet eerily calm, turned his head slightly toward the voice daring to scold him. He met Zayne's sharp eyes golden with irritation, not fear. For the first time in his life, Nikolai Volkov was speechless. Zayne motioned to the nurse. "Scalpel." He cut into Nikolai's jacket with clinical precision, ignoring the expensively tailored fabric and the soft gasps from the guards outside the door. "Next time you decide to get into a gunfight," Zayne said dryly, "try not to lose." A faint, unexpected sound slipped from Nikolai's lips, a chuckle. "Low, dangerous." It startled the entire room. Zayne frowned. "You find something funny, Mr. Walking Target?" Nikolai's eyes half opened, and that was when it hit him, a sweet scent amidst the blood and antiseptic. Warm, addictive, fated. His instincts roared to life. "Mate?" The enigma in him stirred, wild and possessive. His blood sang with primal recognition. This sarcastic alpha, this doctor who dared raise his voice to him, was his. Zayne, completely unaware, kept muttering under his breath while stitching him up. "You've got 6 bullets in you. Were you planning a one-man war or just auditioning for a new mafia movie?" One of the nurses, Dr. Alara Quinn, smirked. "Be nice, Zayne. He's technically royalty in the underworld." Zayne snorted. "Royalty doesn't bleed on my table. Hand me the suture kit." Nikolai's guards outside exchanged nervous looks. One of them, Ivan, whispered, "He's either insane or immortal. Boss hasn't killed him yet." Inside, Nikolai's focus never wavered from Zayne. He watched every flick of his wrist, every sharp glance captivated. When Zayne pressed on his side wound, Nikolai flinched. Zayne glared. "You feel pain? Good. That means you're still alive, genius." The nurse gasped softly. Nikolai's lips curved. "You're very brave, doctor." Zayne didn't even glance up. "I'm very tired, actually." That earned him another low chuckle, the kind that rolled like velvet and danger in one. It sent shivers down everyone's spine, except Zayne's. By the time the operation was done, Nikolai's bleeding had stopped. Zayne peeled off his gloves, exhaustion plain on his face. He turned to Nikolai, who was watching him like a predator studying prey. "You should rest," Zayne said flatly. "And next time, wear armor. Or better yet, stay out of bullets' way." As he turned to leave, Nikolai's fingers shot out, gripping his wrist strong, possessive. Zayne froze. "Doctor," Nikolai's voice was rough, almost reverent. "You have no idea what you've just done to me." Zayne raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, I saved your life, you're welcome. Now let go before I sedate you again." Nikolai's grip tightened for a second, then released, his eyes gleaming with something dark and unreadable. He watched as Zayne walked out of the room, muttering something about dramatic patience with superiority complexes. When the door closed, Ivan entered quietly. "Boss, you good?" Nikolai leaned back, smirk curling his lips as the scent of his mate still lingered in the air. "Good? No even. I'm ruined." Meanwhile, outside, Zayne scribbled the report irritably. Name, Nikolai Volkov. Cause of injury, stupidity. Alara laughed, leaning against the counter. You really don't know who you just yelled at, do you? Zayne rolled his eyes. Some guy with too much money and too little common sense. Alara grinned. Zayne Cross, you might have just scolded the most feared man in the world. Zayne shrugged. Then the world needs better men. Little did he know that same man was lying in the recovery room, staring at the ceiling, whispering softly in Russian, Mi amor, you'll be mine soon enough. Chapter 2. The Wolf in a White Coat. 2 months. That's how long it took for the great Nikolai Volkov, Enigma Mafia King, to recover and for the entire hospital staff to age a collective 10 years from stress. Why 2 months when the Enigma has the healing powers, which will heal him in 3 to 4 days? Because Nikolai refused to leave. He had transformed the VIP ward into his personal palace. His guards patrolled the hallways, his men brought gourmet food, and nurses received tips the size of their salaries. Every attempt to discharge him ended in bribery or intimidation. And at the center of it all was Dr. Zayne Cross, the only human alive who dared to roll his eyes at him. Mr. Volkov, you're discharged. Zayne stood at the door, arms crossed, face set in that particular mix of irritation and exhaustion Nikolai found adorable. Nikolai, lounging on the hospital bed in silk pajamas that cost more than the entire ER wing, smiled lazily. Doctor, you wound me. Are you so eager to get rid of me? Zayne sighed, pulling the chart closer. I don't know if I should call the psych ward or the police because you clearly have attachment issues. Nikolai chuckled, that smooth velvet tone sending shivers down the nurses' spines. He leaned forward, eyes dark and glinting with mischief. If I leave, who will you yell at every morning, HM? Zayne didn't miss a beat. I'll manage. Maybe I'll yell at my coffee machine. Nikolai placed a hand over his heart dramatically. You're breaking it, doctor. Good, that'll keep you in bed. From behind them, Dr. Alara Quinn whispered to a nurse. I swear, this is better than any TV drama. The nurse nodded. They're like a married couple. Zayne's patience snapped a few days later when Nikolai sent an entire bouquet of rare black roses to his office, imported from Italy, delivered by men in suits. The note read, For my favorite doctor, whose hands saved my life but whose eyes stole my sanity. Envy. Zayne crumpled the note and muttered, This man needs antibiotics and therapy. Later that day, a brand new luxury car appeared in the hospital parking lot, ribbon and all. A guard handed him the keys. Mr. Volkov said it's safer for you to drive this instead of that tin can you own. Zayne raised an eyebrow. Tell Mr. Volkov that my tin can doesn't come with GPS trackers or mafia debts. When the guard hesitated, Zayne handed back the keys. And take the roses too. I'm allergic to drama. But Nikolai was relentless. He started appearing in Zayne's office, by coincidence. One day with coffee, the next with files. Sometimes just sitting silently, watching him work with a faint, unreadable smile. When Zayne finally snapped, he turned around mid-report. You're still here? Nikolai smirked. You're not my doctor anymore, remember? Exactly. So why are you? Then I'll get hurt again until I am. The audacity, the confidence, the insanity. Zayne just blinked at him deadpan. Are you flirting or threatening to self-harm for attention? Nikolai smiled wider. Whichever gets your heart racing faster. Alara nearly choked on her tea when she overheard. Lord help this man, he's in love. A week later, Zayne accidentally overheard 2 orderlies gossiping. Apparently, he's the Nikolai Volkov, the Mafia King, owns half the underworld. Zayne froze mid-step annoyed. Again talking about Nikolai? The orderlies nodded nervously. Zayne sighed deeply, muttering to himself, Figures, only a drama king would get shot this stylishly. When Zayne first got to know about it, he confronted Nikolai about it later. The man only smirked. So you finally Googled me. I didn't need to. Zayne said flatly. The way everyone's scared of you gave it away. And you're not? Zayne shrugged. Should I be? Nikolai's grin faltered for a fraction of a second. No one had ever looked at him like that, unimpressed, unafraid. It both thrilled and terrified him. That night, the hospital's power flickered for a moment, and for the first time Zayne saw Nikolai's true side when one of his enemies tried sneaking into the ward disguised as a janitor. The man didn't make it past the hallway. Nikolai's men cornered him within seconds, and Zayne caught a glimpse of the Mafia King's eyes glowing faintly crimson, his aura sharp enough to cut steel. He didn't need weapons. The room itself bowed to his presence. And yet, when Nikolai turned back to Zayne, the darkness melted into something impossibly soft. Did he scare you? Nikolai asked gently. Zayne stared at the unconscious intruder on the floor, then at Nikolai. Should I be worried that I'm getting used to this? Nikolai laughed quietly. Only if you plan to run. I'm too tired to run. Good. He stepped closer, lowering his voice to a dangerous whisper. Then stay close, mi amor. Zayne rolled his eyes. You're bleeding again. Occupational hazard. From what? Smirking too hard? When Nikolai was finally discharged after whole 3 months, he didn't return to his mansion. He sent guards to Zayne's apartment instead. They stood outside like silent statues. Zayne facepalmed. Did your brain take a bullet too? Therefore your safety, Nikolai said smoothly over the phone. I don't need protection. You do, from me. Zayne hung up. The next morning, there was a black car outside his apartment, gleaming in the sun, ribbon replaced with a note. I said I'd court you properly. Don't make me kidnap you instead. Alara, who came to pick Zayne, also read the note over his shoulder. You sure he's not joking? Zayne sighed. If he is, his sense of humor needs resuscitation. That evening, as Zayne locked up his clinic, Nikolai appeared in person. Dressed in a black suit, tie loosened, eyes burning gold under the dim streetlights. Still refusing my gifts? Yes? Even the flowers, especially the flowers. Nikolai smiled faintly. My stubborn alpha. He stepped closer, his voice dropping low, too close, too warm. Do you know what happens when a fated pair keeps denying the bond? Zayne met his gaze without flinching. What? You explode? Something like that. Before Zayne could reply, Nikolai caught his wrist gentle, firm, and leaned down. His lips brushed the inside of it where Zayne's pulse raced. A faint mark glowed there, shimmering gold for a heartbeat before fading. Zayne froze. What did you just... Nikolai's smile turned wicked. You can fight me all you want, but the bond won't wait forever, mi amor. And with that, the Mafia King walked away, leaving Zayne standing under the moonlight, confused, fuming, and secretly trembling from the phantom heat on his skin. Chapter 3. The Bond Burns. It started innocently, if you could call a Mafia King's daily visits innocent. Every morning, Dr. Zayne Cross walked into his clinic to find Nikolai Volkov already waiting in the lobby. Reading a newspaper, drinking imported coffee, pretending to be sick. Chest pain again? Zayne asked flatly, hanging his coat. Nikolai nodded solemnly. It hurts right here. He placed a hand over his heart. Every time you ignore me. Zayne exhaled through his nose. If you keep pretending, I'll prescribe you a brain scan. That means you'll personally examine me? Don't push your luck, Volkov. A dangerous addiction. He wouldn't admit it out loud, but lately Zayne's heartbeat betrayed him. Every time Nikolai leaned in too close, that intoxicating scent, dark musk laced with sweetness, made his pulse trip. When Nikolai smiled, something in Zayne's chest fluttered annoyingly. It was gradual, like heat creeping under the skin. He knew Nikolai was using his pheromones, lowering his guard one whiff at a time. Still, the Alpha Doctor kept his sarcasm as armor. When Nikolai finally said it again in that low, serious tone, "You are my fated mate, Zayne," the doctor merely scribbled on his chart. "Congratulations," he said dryly. "I still charge for consultations." Nikolai laughed, deep and amused, yet his eyes burned with the promise of mine. The night everything changed. It was late when Zayne heard the first crash. Glass shattered, gunfire erupted. By instinct, he reached for the small scalpel on his nightstand. Ridiculous weapon for a firefight. But before he could move, Nikolai was already there, pulling him behind the couch. "Stay down," Nikolai hissed, eyes glowing faintly gold. "They're not after you, they're after me." "Well, that's comforting," Zayne muttered, gripping the scalpel tighter. The rival gang hadn't expected the Mafia King himself to be visiting his beloved doctor. When they realized they couldn't reach Zayne, they turned their weapons on Nikolai. Bullets flew. Nikolai moved like a storm. Fast, precise, lethal. Zayne barely had time to breathe before one of the attackers lunged with a poisoned blade. Without thinking, Zayne stepped in front of Nikolai, blocking the strike. The pain was sharp, burning through his veins instantly. "Zayne!" Nikolai caught him as he fell, fury igniting in his chest like wildfire. He tore through the assailants, eyes blazing crimson, his Enigma power shaking the room. Within minutes, silence. Only the sound of Zayne's ragged breathing remained. Desperation. Back at the Volkov mansion, chaos reigned. Nikolai's personal doctors surrounded the bed, machines beeping, hands trembling. "It's an unknown toxin," one of them said. "We can't risk counteragents." Nikolai's composure cracked. "Then find one." "We're sorry, sir. Any wrong dose could kill him faster." The Mafia King looked down at the pale alpha lying motionless on silk sheets. His doctor, his salvation, his ruin. For the first time in years, Nikolai Volkov felt powerless. Then, instinct roared louder than reason. If medicine couldn't save his mate, bonding might. He cupped Zayne's face, trembling. "Forgive me, mi amor. Desperate times need desperate measures." And he sank his fangs into the scent gland at Zayne's neck. Through the mark, power surged. Enigma energy poured from Nikolai into his mate, burning the poison away. 30% of his own strength, his healing, resilience, life force, transferred across the new bond. The price, a permanent mark that bound them forever. Morning aftermath. Sunlight streamed through the curtains when Zayne stirred. His entire body ached. His neck throbbed. And someone was sitting beside the bed, staring at him like a sinner caught worshipping an angel. "Nikolai." Zayne groaned. "Why do I feel like I got hit by a truck? And why are you still here?" Nikolai hesitated. "Technically, this is my house." Zayne blinked, taking in the expensive decor. "Oh, wonderful. Kidnapped again." He tried to sit up, winced when the bite mark burned. His fingers brushed the tender skin. "What the, Nikolai?" The Mafia King winced at his tone. "You were dying. I had to do something." Zayne glared. "So you bit me? It saved your life. You couldn't try. Oh, I don't know. An ambulance first?" Nikolai's lips twitched. "Ambulances don't transfer Enigma healing abilities." Zayne froze. "You what?" "I marked you permanently." His voice softened. "Now part of my strength flows in you. You'll heal faster. You'll live. And I'll also have matching fang holes as a souvenir, apparently." Nikolai's expression turned sheepish, though pride shimmered beneath. "I admit it wasn't how I pictured marking you, mi amor. I wanted roses, candles, maybe some wine." Zayne threw a pillow at him. "You wanted a proposal. I got a near-death experience." Nikolai caught the pillow easily, smirking. "Still alive, though. You're welcome." "Unbelievable," Zayne muttered. "You're like an infection I can't cure." He swung his legs off the bed, only for Nikolai to step forward instantly, hands hovering protectively. "Easy, you're still weak. I'm fine. You were poisoned. And you were a pain in the—" Nikolai leaned in, whispering, "Finish that sentence and I'll prove just how territorial I can get." Zayne froze, cheeks heating despite himself. "You wouldn't dare." "Try me." A knock interrupted them. Ivan peeked in, trying not to grin. "Boss, the council wants an update on the attack." "Oh, hi, Dr. Cross, you're awake. Congratulations on—" surviving marriage by bite. Get out, Zayne and Nikolai said together. Ivan shut the door quickly, laughter echoing down the hall. Zayne sank back against the pillows, exasperated. So I'm stuck with you now? Nikolai sat beside him, tone gentler than ever. Stuck isn't the word I'd use. Bonded sounds better. Zayne gave him a long look. You're impossible. Nikolai smiled, brushing his thumb over the glowing mark on Zayne's neck. And you're mine, mi amor. Even fate couldn't resist you. Zayne sighed, muttering, I'm going to need stronger coffee for this relationship. Chapter 4. Married to the Madness. Later. When Zayne opened his eyes again, he immediately knew something was off. The sterile smell of antiseptic was gone, replaced by the faint scent of cedarwood, cigar smoke, and power. He blinked, taking in the marble ceiling, the velvet drapes, and the tall windows that screamed money and mafia. Then came the voice. Smooth, dangerous, familiar. Good afternoon, mi amor. You're safe. Zayne turned his head and nearly groaned. There he was, lounging beside the bed like he owned the world, which technically he did. Nikolai Volkov, the Mafia King, looked way too pleased for a man who had almost watched his fated mate die. Safe? Zayne rasped, glaring. From what, freedom? Semantics, Nikolai replied easily, pouring him water. You're here for safety and recovery. Right, more like kidnapping and confinement. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Zayne recovered under Nikolai's obsessive care, and by care it meant 24/7 bodyguards, constant meals he didn't ask for, and being shadowed by the Mafia King himself. Whenever Zayne tried to step outside the mansion, someone would politely block his way with a, Sir, boss's orders. At this point, even the guards were terrified of Zayne. Because Zayne Cross, Alpha, Doctor, and Certified Menace had zero patience for mafia nonsense. He scolded them, bossed them around, and made them take vitamins. Hydration is not optional, boys, and if I see another one of you smoking, I'll shove a syringe somewhere unmentionable. They adored him. They called him Doc Queen. And Nikolai? He melted every single time he saw his men obey Zayne like loyal puppies. One evening, at a grand mafia gathering, Nikolai dropped the bomb. Standing before his men, glass of wine in hand, he gestured toward Zayne. Everyone, meet my husband. The entire hall went silent. Zayne choked on his drink. Excuse me, he hissed. Since when did we skip the wedding and vows? Mi amor, you said no so many times I took it as a challenge. The crowd laughed nervously. Zayne glared, and half the mafia nearly fainted. Eventually, mostly for the sake of peace and paperwork, Zayne gave in. A luxurious, scandalously extravagant wedding followed. The press called it the union of chaos and control. Zayne called it a bribe with fancy flowers. After marriage, Nikolai's obsession deepened into something darkly tender. Every night, he wrapped his arms around Zayne like he was the world's most fragile treasure. He'd breathe against his neck, letting his pheromones soak into Zayne's skin until his alpha trembled. Sleep, mi amor. Let my scent remind you. You're mine. Zayne would protest half-heartedly, muttering curses that always melted into sighs. Nikolai was territorial, possessive, unrelenting. He marked Zayne's neck over his permanent mark again and again, leaving faint traces of his claim. No one was allowed near his husband, not even the wind, if Nikolai could help it. And after their marriage, Nikolai would consummate with Zayne regularly, passionately, obsessively, as if proving again and again that Zayne belonged only to him. Each night their bond deepened in equal parts chaos and devotion, until even Zayne's sarcastic walls began to crumble beneath Nikolai's relentless affection. But strangely, Zayne never feared him. He rolled his eyes, called him dramatic, and somehow managed to calm him whenever his temper flared. Whenever Nikolai's rage threatened to spill, Zayne would just mutter, "Sit down, Volkov, you're giving me a migraine." And just like that, the Mafia King would obey. "You're my painkiller," he murmured one night, pulling Zayne close. And you're my headache, Zayne replied. Then we're perfectly matched. And in the mansion where power met sarcasm, the world's most dangerous love story continued, with laughter, obsession, and a lot of broken furniture. Chapter 5. The Heir and the Heart. The hospital was bustling with the usual chaos: interns running, nurses shouting, monitors beeping, but Dr. Zayne Cross was calm as ever, clipboard in hand, sarcasm ready, coffee half empty. It had been 9 months since his very public marriage to the infamous Nikolai Volkov, the Mafia King, who ruled the underworld and his domestic life with equal intensity. Against Nikolai's constant sulking and dramatic begging, Zayne had returned to work just 2 months after their marriage. He found his husband's pouting adorable, not that he'd ever admit it aloud. "You're going back to that hospital again?" Nikolai had grumbled that morning, clinging to him like a 6'3" toddler. "Yes," Zayne said dryly, "because someone has to save lives while you hoard them." But now, standing in the middle of a staff meeting, Zayne felt a sudden wave of dizziness. His vision blurred. His hand instinctively went to his stomach. And then everything went black. When he woke up, the bright white ceiling lights nearly blinded him, and the sound of a doctor's cautious voice reached his ears. "Dr. Cross, congratulations." Zayne blinked. "For what? Not dying of exhaustion?" "No, you're pregnant." "A beat?" "I what?" The entire room froze. Someone dropped a clipboard. Zayne sat up so fast that the nurse nearly fainted. Meanwhile, across the city, in a luxurious meeting room filled with dangerous men and serious faces, Nikolai Volkov was in the middle of negotiating a massive arms deal when his phone rang. "Boss, it's about Dr. Cross. He fainted at the hospital. And your heir to the throne is on the way." The next sound was a chair screeching violently. The men barely had time to blink before their boss stormed out. 30 minutes later, Nikolai burst into the hospital, looking every inch the devil in a tailored suit, black coat flying, eyes wild, the guards parted like the Red Sea. He kicked open the door of Zayne's room, breathing hard. Zayne, now fully awake and fuming, glared. "You could have used the handle like a normal person." "You're pregnant," Nikolai said, voice trembling. "Our heir." Zayne blinked. "I haven't even processed that yet, Volkov." Nikolai dropped to his knees beside the bed, pressing his forehead to Zayne's stomach, eyes glistening. "Our baby, mi amor. You have no idea how much I... If you cry on my scrubs, I'll charge you for dry cleaning." The next few months were pure chaos. Nikolai transformed from a blood-soaked mafia king into the most overprotective, obsessive husband alive. He installed security cameras in every corner of their house, banned Zayne from working late, and replaced all sharp objects with child-safe versions, even the kitchen knives. His men started baby-proofing the mansion's weapons. One of them, wiping tears, whispered, "The boss told me to remove the bullets from his guns, just in case the baby touches them." Zayne almost lost it laughing. But beneath the comedy there was something heartbreakingly tender in the way Nikolai hovered. He'd tuck Zayne into bed every night, place his head on Zayne's lap, and murmur against his stomach, "Our little one. You already have your father's sarcasm. I can feel it." Zayne would roll his eyes, fond but exasperated. "If you don't stop talking to my belly at 3 a.m., I will perform surgery on you in your sleep." "Do it, mi amor. Then we'll share a scar and a soul." As the months went on, Zayne's body changed. His sarcasm sharpened with his cravings, and Nikolai's patience was constantly tested. He'd panic every time Zayne sneezed. Literally. "You're sneezing too much. Should I call the doctor?" "I am the doctor. I'll call another one just in case." Their banter became the household's background music, laughter mixed with chaos and love. Finally, the day arrived. Zayne's water broke at 3 a.m. Nikolai panicked so much that he almost fainted. He called 12 doctors, 3 nurses, and possibly 1 priest. Zayne, gripping his husband's collar, hissed, "You caused this, Volkov. You deal with it." Hours later, as dawn broke through the mansion's windows, the cries of a newborn filled the air. A boy, tiny, loud, and already glaring like his father. Zayne lay exhausted but glowing, the small baby resting on his chest. Nikolai sat beside them, completely undone, eyes glistening as he whispered, "He's perfect, just like you." Zayne smiled softly. "He's trouble, just like you." They named him Luka Nikolai Cross Volkov, a name that meant light in the middle of chaos. Weeks later. One night, when everything was calm, Nikolai sat beside Zayne, one arm protectively around him, the other cradling their son. He pressed a kiss to Zayne's neck right over the mark that bound them forever. "You gave me a reason to stop killing," he murmured. "And start panicking every time I sneeze," Zayne replied, eyes twinkling. Nikolai chuckled, resting his forehead against Zayne's. "Our family, mi amor. My heart, my air, my everything." And in that dimly lit room with their baby's soft breathing filling the silence, their hands intertwined and the world outside trembling at their power, Zayne and Nikolai found there forever. A story born of blood, bullets, and love ending in laughter, warmth, and madness that was beautifully theirs.